Are you wondering if you should be shooting in 4K or 1080? Well, it all depends. Let me explain though what the main difference is between the two. They are two different resolutions that you could actually film or view it in. So when you hear 1080, what it means is 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall. Now that might sound like a lot of pixels, and it is, but in regards to 4K, it's really not that much. So when you hear 4K, 4K refers to 3840 pixels wide by 2160 pixels tall. Now that is 4 times the resolution of 1080, so you might be thinking to yourself that 4K is a whole lot better. But it depends. Most phones today still don't have a 4K display on them, and the majority of people still don't have a 4K TV or a 4K monitor for their computer. So for example, the newest iPhone, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it only has a display slightly higher than 1080. The screen resolution is 1284 pixels wide by 2778 pixels tall. So the resolution is just slightly above 1080, and most people though aren't viewing 4K on their phones. In a 2018 study, there was a study done that about 62% of people view videos on their phone. And fast forward to this year, I'm sure with the pandemic going on, a lot more people are sitting around watching more things on their phones. To help with that question though, of when does it matter? It depends on where you're putting the video. If you're going on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, any social medias, including YouTube, the majority of people on those platforms are viewing it on their phones. So, like I said before, phones aren't even in 4K, so you shouldn't even be filming in 4K if that's what you're planning on doing. And if you are planning on putting a video up on social media, filming in 1080 is going to be perfect. Everybody's going to actually be able to view it, and working with the 1080 file is going to be much easier for you when you're working on it on your computer and even when you're uploading it or downloading it, just because the file sizes are going to be smaller. But when you should be filming in 4K, if you're filming for a client or if somebody requests that you need to be filming in 4K, then yes, film in 4K. Because 4K, people look at it as it's one of the higher resolutions right now. It's going to give you a better image overall, which it is true, but if your computer isn't strong enough to handle 4K files, or you don't even have enough space on your computer, then you can't even do 4K because, your computer can't handle it. So in regards of the file sizes though, I'm filming in 4K right now and I'm going to be uploading this in 4K. But I'm filming on a Canon EOS R 10-bit 422, and the file sizes, I'm getting about a gigabyte, a little bit over a gigabyte a minute. And that is really high. I was just filming the other day on a project that I'm going to be releasing soon, but just for about 10 clips or so, about a minute to 2 minutes a piece, I was around 30 gigabytes. And that was all in 4K 10-bit 422. When I say 10-bit 422, what that is referring to though is the color gambit, which I will get into in a later video. Just know that 444 is going to be the best that you can get, and it goes all the way up to 16 bits, so the higher the bit, the better the colors. Referring to 1080, if I film those same scenes and sequences in 1080, my file sizes should be 4 times smaller, so more about like 200 megabytes for every minute recorded. Don't worry if you can't film in 4K or your computer can't take 4K, because like I said, the majority of people aren't viewing it in 4K anyways, so they won't even be able to witness the entire 4K experience, if you want to say that. And 1080 is still going to be the perfect way to go because that's what a majority of people are still viewing videos in today. I will say though, like 1080 is going to be the lowest that you're going to want to go to. You're not going to be wanting to film in 720 because 720 just starts to feel muddy. The image starts to fall apart, it starts getting pixelated, and people will see if it's a 720 versus 1080 just because everyone is viewing in slightly above 1080. Now a plus side with 4K, excluding the file sizes, is if you need to reframe your image, you're going to have all that extra resolution to reframe it, and you could then convert it into 1080. So if you are going to plan on uploading in 1080 but you want to film in 4K, it's going to give you that leeway if your framing wasn't perfect, or if you need to just resize something, you're able to without the image actually falling apart. For example, I'll zoom into this lamp here. Now you can see that I'm zoomed in 200%, so technically it's a 1080 file, but it's not falling apart. Right here is going to be a sequence, a B-roll sequence of different shots that were shot in 4K, 1080, and 720. It's just going to be helping demonstrate what the different resolutions look like with the different displays that you have, but here you go. So, I don't know if you were able to tell which clips are 1080, 4K, or 720, but here I'm going to play it again, and I'm going to put on what each resolution is on each of the clips. So now you could form your own opinions and see what the different resolutions look like, see what you're going to want to film in, but like I said, I would not go in that 720. It may look good, but it's just too low of a resolution for today's technology. Now moving into the technical side, resolution isn't the only deciding factor though of how good an image is actually going to look. What you're going to want to look for though is what your camera can do in regards of speed, in the regards of how fast that it could actually take that information in and transfer it to your storage device. So what you're going to be wanting to look for is the megabit per second. This is indicated by capital M, lowercase b, /s. So that's megabits per second. Now there are also megabits a second, which that's indicated by capital M, capital B, \s. So that's megabits a second. Now it takes 8 megabytes to make 1 megabit. So you're going to want to do the research on what your camera can do in megabits a second, and then convert it over to megabytes, and then make sure you get an SD card though that can go into those speeds. So instead of looking for the resolution, you're really going to want to be looking for these speeds, because the faster the speed, then the cleaner the image is going to be. It's going to look a little bit sharper because you're going to get all that extra information coming into the camera. And that's going to be a little bit more important if you could shoot 4K or 1080. You could be recording in 4K, but only, let's say, at 100 megabytes a second, which I don't even know if that's possible, but that is going to look a lot worse than what a 1080 at like a 400 megabits a second will look like. Most phones today can record in 4K, but that 4K image isn't going to look as great as filming from a DSLR or a cinema camera, because they're not going to have those fast speeds, and also we could get into it in a later video, but the sensor sizes as well. So in theory though, having a 1080 clip being recorded at 100 megabytes a second versus a 1080 clip that's going to be filmed at like 500 megabytes a second, that 500 megabytes in theory should be 5 times better of an image. So in regards of resolution, don't be worried if you can't film in 4K or 6K or 8K, because most people nowadays can't even view it in 4K. You're wasting all of the time and all of your storage on your computer for files that people aren't even going to be able to experience in 4K just because they don't even have the displays for them. It's a good idea to be recording in 1080 nowadays because there's smaller file sizes and people could actually see the 1080 display. So just remember, when you're looking for cameras, you're going to be wanting to look at what the speed at which the data can be converted into the SD card, because that is going to give you a better image overall. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next.